Hello, YouTube. Testing 1, 2. Mic check 1, 2. Noah check 1, 2. Hello, everybody. Good evening. Today is Tuesday, May 19th, 2020. We have all survived another day in this economic insanity. And a couple of thoughts are on my mind. A couple of thoughts are always on my mind. Thoughts are on everyone's mind. People throwing around questions all the time on Twitter. I'm happy to talk about anything that anyone has on their mind. Just pop it in the chat and I'll give it a little talkie. But there's two things that I mentioned that spawned the idea of me starting this video tonight was technicals and fundamentals. That's what everyone hears. And I'm going to gear this talk towards that. What the heck are they? The fact that you hear two words and they really are representative of entire industries. The entire stock market industry runs on more or less technicals nowadays. And I would confidently say investing in fundamentals in the United States stock market is dead. You cannot invest in fundamentals into the United States stock markets. New York Stock Exchange, NASDAQ. No way, stay away. It is a place where fundamentals lived and died. You can run on technicals. So what are technicals? We'll start with technicals. Technicals are little lines that you draw on a graph. But it's true. And they're meaningful because technicals, those little lines that you see people throwing around on graphs on Twitter, are representative of trends, and those trends are based on emotions and sentiment and tendencies and psychology. So the little lines really boil down to consensus and many people having particular predictable actions under particular circumstances. And you can spot these trends visually based on established historic patterns that are documented. You look up stock chart trends on Google, and you're going to get a whole list of patterns. And the patterns, you could look into the definitions and descriptions of them, and they will explain why the patterns have significance, and you could get information about the psychology behind why and how the patterns manifest. Double tops, cup and handles, rising wedges tend to break down, symmetrical triangles, flags, bull or bear. Now, I am far from a professional, but the way I use technicals is to put the technical analysis, evaluation into a fundamental framework, a fundamental perspective that I have. Now, I do not invest based on technicals. I will hold a little bit, meaning I will restrain myself a little bit if technicals are horrible. But in some regards, technicals can point to very much a short-term trend that is overwhelmingly overridden by the fundamental big picture. Now, for me, it's fundamentals. I've invested in the stock market for many, many years based on fundamentals. And I have been burned like come up with an analogy. Fundamentals are dead in the stock market. And I am hopeful, for dear Lord heaven's sake, the fundamentals are not dead in the crypto space. I don't think they are. I don't think it's manipulated beyond what people are aware of that goes on with the derivatives markets, BitMEX, Binance, so on and so forth. But that is not the degree of manipulation that occurs in the United States stock markets. The stock market should be imploding right now. Driving and listening. That's the way to listen. Enjoy. I hope my information is enjoyable and informative, so on and so forth, all those fun adjectives. So I invest based on fundamentals. I can't do that in the stock market. All right, fine. I do have a couple of tiny positions, but there's no way, shape, or form to know that the fundamental bets are going to appreciate in value anytime soon, because it's based on the whole system, and the system is overwhelmingly disrupted. It's fundamentally disrupted. All right, fine. Fundamental analysis, it contributes to my theories and understanding of what's going to play out with regard to the economy as a whole, and they call that probably macro analysis, macro analytical framework of some kind. But fundamentals in the crypto space, the potential is wonderful, because if you apply the highest level of fundamental analysis to crypto, I mean, literally like UTXO and smart contract land, the whole thing, it's the most bullish thing I've ever seen in my entire life, because crypto replaces every horrible, antiquated, pathetic aspect of the system that you live in. It makes everything else, banks, tax agencies, the IRS, Social Security, look downright, it's not a derogatory thing, pathetic. It makes them look pathetic. People run around the United States with a 9-digit number called the Social Security number, which can be used to open up credit lines, mortgages, and it's the responsibility of the mortgage lender to validate the person's identity. But guess what? We have fraud. We have identity theft, which means that it's useless. And guess what? The reason they don't change the system is the same reason the credit card companies don't change, because it's cheaper to pay and deal with the fraud than it is to change. The credit card companies and the rest of the world, let's not talk about Asian territories, because they don't even run on credit cards anymore. It's all digital and apps and NFC and all that fancy stuff. But in Europe, for instance, it's chip and pin, meaning you don't have, there's no magnetic strip on the back of credit cards. It's a chip. We have chips in the United States, but in Europe, you put in the chip and you got to put in a pin. It's two-factor authentication, and it's substantially reduced the fraud. But what does that entail? That entails that all readers only support chip and pin, and you have to incentivize use of it by saying there's huge risk if you want to use signature. And the odds are that if it turns out to be a fraud credit card swipe, the person who swiped the credit card, the store, takes the risk and ends up losing money. So nobody accepts signature in pretty much Europe. It's high risk. And the same thing in the United States. But guess what? The United States is, once again, pathetic. We have chip and signature, which means it's useless. It doesn't mean anything. There's no freaking point to have a chip on a credit card in the United States. It's absolutely ridiculous. Argo Glass says, I've been begging people to look up Russell J. Gould and what he's done with the banking system and declaring all contracts void. I don't know the context of Russell J. Gould. Let's Google it real quick. He's a judge. All right, I'd have to do more digging, but suffice it to say, all contracts void. Well, you know, when I hear that very high level, you talk, the only thing that comes to my mind without detailed context is like debt jubilee. And we're talking about like outcomes of what this mess can be over time. I have no idea, but I have thoughts, which I've talked about on Twitter. I will continue to have thoughts because it's a mess, and it's horrible, and that's why we're here in crypto land, because nobody's going to do investing. Okay, anyone here, especially anyone listening to me, is not heavily invested in the stock market necessarily. If you've seen statistics and metrics, there's a whole lot of people on Robinhood investing in the stock market, and in many regards, I feel bad for them because they're likely not investing in crypto, and they're like, oh, this is an opportunity and I'm going to buy everything, and they're going to get slaughtered when this thing implodes. Oh, and it's unfortunate. But all I can do is present information and hope as many people see it as possible. Oh, for the love of God, don't buy stocks. Don't buy Apple and Microsoft. Don't buy the big stocks. It's going to be bad. The market cap, the GDP, the stock market's at 140%. We have 25 plus percent unemployment, and the stock market's higher than it was at the turn of the year, 2020 in January. Whoa. No. The whole point of like fundamental analysis is the stock market should reflect the state of the situation. The stock market should be imploding because everyone's unemployed. The only reason we're barely getting by is because of the CARE Act, and a couple of $1,000 were sent to people. And in all regards, that's placation. It's like, all right. It's like, shut up, people. Here's a couple bucks. Don't worry, we gave the vast majority to corporations to bail them out. Here's a couple bucks. So, but that runs out in is it June? So we're going to have to see what happens when people that got hit the hardest run out of money and there's no work. And then we'll see what happens. And it's scary, but it is what it is. So fundamental analysis versus technicals. I am a fundamentals-based investor, and that's the way to do things, in my opinion. If you're talking about crypto projects, you know the projects I like. So interestingly enough, I should digress. You want to invest based on fundamentals, but to structure your portfolio, sometimes the most fundamentally sound projects are not to be the highest percentage of your portfolio. There's an art to balancing your portfolio of what to own more of versus what to own less of. Suffice it to say, you want to own more of things that have higher momentum and volume and market cap because they're going to be the most stable. When structuring your portfolio, you overwhelmingly want the vast majority of value to be relatively stable. You want to protect your value, and you want to make reasonable bets to grow your value. So, for instance, I am 55% Bitcoin. 12% Ethereum. That's just notable and interesting. Mike, my man, what's up? That's why Link is killer. So Link, we'll digress from the fundamentals and the technicals. That was a nice way to start the video. But I love Link. Link is an oracle. It's going to change everything. You have Teller and Band and a couple of other projects that are trying to tap into the oracle space. Yes, it's a great investment. Yes, oracles are going to be overwhelmingly a critical component of the DeFi landscape. I've sold my Link. Not because I don't think it's a wonderful investment, probably equivalent to the caliber, scale, scope, awesomeness, potential of the other projects that we'll probably talk about. But it's not consistent with my investment thesis. So that is something very important to understand. Fundamentals, balancing of a portfolio, and have an investment thesis and stick to it. Don't digress. You can't own everything. It's not possible. Believe me, I want to throw 10 grand into Link, but that would spread me too thin. So I have to make hard decisions, even though I think Link, it could go at 10x. It could become a critical part of infrastructure, but it's not my thesis. Pick a thesis that floats your boat and stick to it. My thesis with regard to cryptocurrency is liquidity and interoperability. I believe that's the future of everything, of a replacement system for the pathetically antiquated real world system that currently exists. If blockchains, smart contract and UTXO can talk to each other and pass liquidity, provide equity, facilitate collateral for loans, and so on and so forth, and tokenization. Holy crap, what an infrastructure is being built. I want my Digibyte jammed into an Ethereum contract where a Digi asset represents my house. Now, realistically speaking, this is not going to happen in the short term. Technologically speaking, no doubt that is, let's do it. Yay. Let's have the tax agencies give us a call and get a bunch of developers and we build the system. Sure, fine. Technologically, it's doable, but practically, it's not going to happen. And this goes back to why the stock market is a ridiculous way to invest, because the status quo is almost impossible to move. Nobody's going to call these little dev shops these projects. So we also have to be realistic with our investments. And this goes into somewhat of balancing the portfolio. What is more or less likely to appreciate in what time frame? Now, I state wholeheartedly that Digibyte is overwhelmingly a piece of public utility. No doubt. It is. And I'll say that it's just obvious. It's Bitcoin, but better. Now, does that mean it's going to appreciate? Now, I hold a fair amount of Digibyte. Is it the largest in my portfolio? Oh, hell no. Because I know what it's going up against. One, it's going up against Bitcoin. And Bitcoin is tiny relative to the rest of the world. So Digibyte is attempting to disrupt an ongoing disruption. That is a lot of resistance. So how do I think about this? This goes into balancing the portfolio. One, I know I need to hold Digibyte because it is public infrastructure. It is something that can be consumed by anyone at any time on the planet. Two, I have no idea what the time frame is for adoption. You have to be rational with your investing. So I can't size it to be a majority of my portfolio. That would be irrational. It would be hopium, irrational hopium, that it's going to miraculously appreciate and change the world. Now, I can't bank on that. I need to bank. So can't be irrational with your investing. You need to retain and protect value. You want to grow your assets by having small bets. So it's a small portion of my portfolio, but sure, if it changes the world, oh, it's going to be lovely. And anyway, it gets complicated, particularly because it just pulled 1,000%, pulled a 10x. So what the heck am I saying in some regards? But what do I have? It's these ideas, and you could interpret and digest them however you want. Michael says, are Teller and Band worth any attention? Sure. Yes. Would I hold them? No. Would I hold an Oracle? At this point, no. Pick a thesis. You have to pick a thesis because you can't invest in everything. And I mean that in all my professional opinion. You can't. You think, as I said, I want to own 10 grand worth of Link. I want to own 50 grand worth of it. Why not? Why not throw 1,000 to Teller, 1,000 at the Band? No, I can't do that because it would be irrational, and I would spread myself too thin. So don't get me wrong. When you see a project that's got potential to be everything and change the world, you got to make your bets. And for the fun of it, there's only one project that I think is on the cusp of fundamentally contributing to one of the biggest pieces of infrastructure that's currently missing, has zero competition. And it's just, as I've said many times, I'm out of loss for words for the potential of projects like Digibyte. But this project is imminent. It's tapping into almost $1 billion. Well, let me give you an exact number. $892 million. The current DeFi market cap, what is locked in DeFi? What does it mean that value is locked in DeFi? It means that someone took Ethereum or whatever in MakerDAO, or the MakerDAO Oasis. They locked WBTC or Ethereum or BAT. They support BAT. That's random. But as collateral to mint DAI. So let's say I have one WBTC, which is worth a Bitcoin 1-to-1, 9,684, and I take 40% of it, and I mint $3,500 worth of DAI. DAI is a 1-to-1, give or take, with the US dollar. So I have my one WBTC, and I have $3,500 to play with to go on DYDX and trade and make more DAI, make whatever. Or throw it into Aave and get a couple of percent on DAI, swap it using Uniswap and Kyber to USDC and get 6, 7, 8% on my $3,500, while I have complete and total access to my one WBTC. That one WBTC can become $50,000, and I still have it. I could return the 3,500 DAI to the Oasis and reclaim access to my one WBTC at any time. No regulation, no control, no restriction. It is software built into Ethereum. And that means my WBTC was used as collateral. I was able to access the equity and use it for strategic purposes. Holy crapsicle. So, the only project that I think is on the threshold of imminent, significant value appreciation, beyond anything else that I can think of, is Ren. It facilitates the making the equity of UTXO projects available to the DeFi space. I told you guys $892 million is currently in DeFi. What happens if $50,892 million was available in DeFi? How is it going to get there? Let's start with that. How would that money get into DeFi? Because people want to make interest. Instead of just sitting on your Bitcoin, get percent interest on a healthy percent of your Bitcoin, keeping it properly collateralized in the Oasis. How does it get there? There's two ways. One way it gets there reliably. You guys don't want to know, or maybe you do want to know. Holy crap, I have almost as much Ren as Bitcoin. My Bitcoin to Ren ratio, I think, is 75%. 75% as much Ren as I do Bitcoin. And Bitcoin is 60% of my portfolio. All right. Listen, sometimes you got to make bets. If it doesn't go well, it happens. And that's what happened to me in the stock market. I made my bets based on fundamentals, and it didn't work out. But if you stick to your thesis, have conviction, and your convictions are rational, they're logical, it's going to work. This is how it's happened in the past to countless people. This is how it will happen again. And remain rational. For the love of God, don't buy 10 grand worth of red coin and think it's going to go to 100 grand. For the love of God, don't buy 5 grand worth of Ripple and think it's going to go to $1,380 a coin. There is zero logic or rationality to a move like that. Frankly, here's the logic and rationality to Ripple appreciating. Somehow, miraculously, banks use it and it changes the banking world. But guess what? You're betting on the system. You're betting on the status quo moving. Guess what happens when you bet on the status quo system, when you bet on the stock market, when you bet on the banks and the federal government? You're going to get fucked.
Yeah.
Banks, government, the central banks, the printing they're doing, the stock market is disgusting. Don't bet on that. Bet on new. Bet on things that are going to change the world, which is why, anyway, I don't want to digress. So how do you get your money into DeFi? The biggest one, the most reliable one, WBTC, requires a centralized custodian, which means it's slow, which means you have to go through or companies that are registered to mint WBTC. So it's not broadly available. It's not decentralized. It's not publicly accessible. TBTC just had a flop. TBTC has the potential to do this, but they had a bug in their system and they had to abort launch. Give it a Google. TBTC. It's all over YouTube, all over Twitter. TBTC has limitations, is collateralized by F, which Luan from Ren describes nicely in his videos. The way he describes it, it's overwhelmingly comes up short technologically, TBTC. But bear in mind, aside from the technological shortcomings, the F collateralization of the TBTC, guess what? It is only Bitcoin. Ren handles all UTXO. Not right now, but it can. The concept, the technology in RenVM supports all UTXO because RenVM is a decentralized custodian of UTXO private keys. That's all it is. Obviously, there's nuances and subtleties and probably characteristics that I'm not reflecting with that statement. But that's everything. That's how you get any UTXO value into DeFi. So that means $179 billion of Bitcoin into DeFi space to get percent interest, whole percent interest, not 0.0001 that your bank offers you. 1, 2, 3, 6, 7, 8 of USD on USDC, or throw it into a 5x long on DYDX or a 4x short on DYDX, while you still have full access to your UTXO asset, Bitcoin, DigiByte, whatever you want to throw in there. That's the whole point. That's why I'm so bullish about Brent. It's freaking crazy. Fundamentally. And frankly, guess what? The technicals support it. Technicals, I throw up the charts on Ren on Twitter, and they look absolutely ridiculous. They look like they are supported. They have tested support. Therefore, there's only so much they're likely to go down because it has tested going down and shown to bounce right off of particular levels, which means there's relative safety in the position, more likely to remain at the current valuation and appreciate and less likely to break the support. And that's what the value of the technical analysis has in how you balance your portfolio and choose your portfolio based on fundamental analysis. So going back to the original point of the video, fundamental analysis is critical. Having an investment thesis is critical. Balancing your portfolio is critical. You have to have an investment thesis because you can only own so many assets or spread yourself too thin or run the risk of spreading yourself too thin. You have to have an investment thesis for the exact same reason, because if you deviate from your thesis, you're going to end up spreading yourself too thin. And you have to protect your value. So that goes into balancing the portfolio based on your fundamental analysis. You're going to want to own the vast majority of Bitcoin. Now, interestingly enough, Mike and James had McAfee on. Now, this gets into probably another conversation, but briefly, Bitcoin being valueless, it's an interesting statement that he made, and I absolutely agree with him. He's a smart man. He has experience. Far out, no doubt, but that's besides the point. Experience is experience, no matter how far out. how far out you are. So I think he's correct. But and also, what interesting, his statement, "Wake up, people." Yeah, that's why you have to put his opinions into perspective. Nobody's going to wake up. The general public are sheep being herded by herd dogs, sheep. So the only thing you have to ask yourself is, are you a sheep or are you a wolf? Because everyone else is sheep. It's the truth. Otherwise, the system would be different. Otherwise, if everyone was not a sheep, you know how pissed everyone would be that we got $1,200 in the U.S. and everyone else got 30 grand. All the banks and the hedge funds and the corporations got countless thousands of dollars, and they gave everyone else a couple of bucks, and it was all our money to start with. So that they don't know, they don't look into it, they don't care. It's indifferent. They're sheep. It is what it is. So that's the whole point. What McAfee said: wake up. It's not going to happen. Bitcoin is valueless. Sure, I think it is. Why? Exactly why he said it was. It has no purpose. I'll get to that in a sec, Mike. Bitcoin. So Bitcoin has the same value as the dollar, aside from the deflationary properties. The dollar has value because it's backed by the full faith and credit of the U.S. government. Bitcoin has value because everyone believes it has fucking value, and that means it has value. Because if you put that into consideration, but the fact that everything else sucks, the US dollar sucks, every other currency sucks, nobody's going to invest in the stock market. If you have any 2 cents in your brain, it leaves Bitcoin. So it has value because everything else is horrible, and that's meaningful. And no one's going to wake up. No one's going to automatically realize these grandiose truths about what has value, what doesn't have value, what doesn't have value. So everything is going to continue with momentum. A trajectory is picked, and it's obvious. Things don't about face. Once a trend starts, it proceeds and plays out. The trend towards renewable energy, the trend towards electric vehicles, this shit is going to play out. And the same thing is happening with cryptocurrencies, because it's going to save companies a fortune. It's going to make companies a fortune. It's going to save people from losing money by moving money into cryptocurrencies when everything else is imploding. Gold's another story. I love me some gold. Hi, guys. Caterpie. All right. So Mike said Kyber. Hell yeah. In fact, I sold Link and Unibright, and I moved it into Ren and Kyber and Ethereum. Unibright was, I think it was up 40-50%. Oh, joy. Lovely. So this is where you have to stick to your investment thesis. And I'm like, sure, I love what they're doing. They're involved with Baseline Protocol. These boys are going to be used by everyone far and wide. This is a game-changing company, Unibright. It's not consistent with my investment thesis. I had to liquidate it. I think Link changes the game. It's not consistent with my investment thesis. I had to liquidate it. I was spread too thin, and I wasn't placing enough value in the projects that I see have the most potential for imminent price appreciation. Royan, physical gold and silver. Oh, hell yeah. Listen, if I was 22 right now, I would have no dollars. If I had no family and no wife, I would have no US dollars. I would be out of the system. The only reason I have dollars is because my family. I need it to pay bills, but there's ways to pay bills in US dollar denominated bills using cryptocurrencies. But protect your value. So, oh hell yeah, you want to own gold and silver. Funny thing is, the cryptocurrency metaphor, Bitcoin, gold, silver, Ethereum, Litecoin. No, my fundamental spidey sense has absolutely zero reaction to Litecoin. Here's my fundamental spidey sense. Ren, Litecoin. Just doesn't hit me at all. I mean, Digibyte's better than Litecoin. Come on. Fine. The only thing Litecoin has going for it is the hash power. Its script hash power is the dominant hash power, so that has its dominant hash power security. Yay! Not hitting my spidey sense. That's just me. So don't completely discount Litecoin. I would argue that it shouldn't be entirely discounted for sure as hell as compared to garbage like Ripple. So it's the holy grail of crypto in comparison to garbage like Ripple. Come on. So sure, even I will give it overwhelming credit in that regard. It is not garbage. It is a legitimate blockchain, UTXO chain in the nature of Bitcoin. And it has dominant script hash power, so it's powerful. Do I think it's going to appreciate? I'd rather put my money elsewhere. I'd rather store it in Bitcoin because I know Bitcoin is going to go. Ethereum as well because of DeFi. In order to do many things on Ethereum, in order to do many things in DeFi, you need Ethereum. So come on, use cases, people. Use cases. Now, Bitcoin, that's your store of value. Gold and silver is your store of value. Now, many people talk about silver appreciating more than gold because the gold-silver ratio is coming down. It was at historic highs. So sure, maybe you want to balance your portfolio more silver than gold. Fuck it. Why not? Do it. Give it a shot. All I know is the reasonable course of action is to own a lot of gold and silver. You want to have probably less cash than gold, silver, and crypto. Feel free to make the argument. Why hold more cash than gold, silver, and crypto? What is the point of cash? Is it appreciating in value? Is it contributing to your financial freedom? What does it do? Now, listen, don't get me wrong. Well, Michael, you say, yeah, well, trading, go for it. Listen, if you go on BlockNet, you're going to be trading Block versus Litecoin because it's the liquidity. Trade against Bitcoin. Sure, trading. So listen, I'm an investor. Anytime I've traded, I've lost money. So yes, those are logical, rational, reasonable statements. And that's why there's value in Litecoin. And that is not discountable. My opinions are based for me and how I do what I do. Doesn't mean they are something for everyone to use and go by. Do you have any thoughts on other blockchain projects like EOS, Cardano, Tezos? Tezos is probably reasonable. EOS, Cardano, that's the only thing listen, Ethereum is entrenched. It's become infrastructure. You think Cardano is going to top Ethereum? Come on. And then if you even if you think it is, how would you balance your portfolio? You really if you have 10 grand to invest, you're going to put 5 grand into Ethereum and 5 grand into Cardano? No, come on. You spread yourself too thin. Pick a platform that's going to fundamentally change the entire crypto landscape, maybe the legacy financial system. And don't spread yourself too thin. If you spread yourself too thin, you're not going to get bang for the buck when this market moves. And Warren Buffett, albeit people are questioning his investment strategy of late, I think is the best investor of all time. When you find the bet, you got to bet big. Otherwise, you're not going to go anywhere. So be diversified with the vast majority of your portfolio to protect your value. And when you see something that's a potential opportunity, do your due diligence, cross your T's and dot your I's, really make a strong effort to assess the fundamentals and take a look at the technicals and make a good bet. Yes, but I like to think I'm rational. Based on everything I hear, I know many rational people. Mike, you're a rational guy. Make good choices, do due diligence. If anyone has any questions, I'm happy to answer anything in specific. Otherwise, we've talked a fair amount. We've digressed a fair amount, which is something we love to do. I like to do that. I wish we could do more Q&A sessions rather than me having an idea. I wish Twitter for me was people ask me a question on Twitter. And I'd be like, oh, I'll do a video about that. And I think that'd be fun to do. So thank you everyone for joining. If I have any ideas, rest assured I'll have a video. But if anyone has any ideas, throw me a question on Twitter and bet your bottom dollar it's going to spark a video. Y'all have a good evening. Thank you for joining. See you next time. Peace.